Hello wonderful people, it's Genevieve, and as you've probably guessed because I'm literally sitting on the floor in the middle of my apartment, this video is going to be a little bit different from my usual drawing tutorials. Today we're trying to make a rug, which is awesome if you ask me. I'm so excited. I've never done this before, but I had the idea because a channel that I really like, which is called the Sorry Girls, I might be a bit biased here because it was started by two Canadian girls, so, you know. Yeah, they posted this video in which one of the girls, Becky, learned how to make a rug. And as soon as I saw the title, I was like, okay, I need to try this for myself as soon as possible. I don't know about you, but whenever I'm drawing, mostly when I'm coloring because sketching takes a little bit too much focus for me. But anyway, whenever I'm drawing, I like to have either a podcast or like a DIY or a cooking video in the background because I like to learn, you know, optimize my time. So hopefully this video right here can do that for you. Maybe we can hang out together when you're doing something else, or maybe you actually want to learn how to make a rug, in which case I'm going to do my best to just share with you what I've learned doing research, but also kind of what I'm learning as I'm doing it myself. And that might not be the type of video for you at all. You know, that's fine. I totally understand that. If that's the case, I'll see you in just a few days when I post, you know, a regular drawing tutorials. Yeah, with that said, I guess let's try to make a rug. So to make this rug, I'm going to be using a technique called punch needle, which from what I could see online seems really easy, and the supplies were really super affordable as well. So basically the one thing that you really absolutely need, well, you need all the supplies, but the most important thing is the punch needle. You also need some yarn. I just went with super regular yarn. You want to make sure that the yarn actually fits in the hole of your tool, so not too chunky, not fancy, just basic yarn. And you're also going to need some monk cloth, which as you can see is this really neat, like linen, I guess, type of fabric. I really try whenever possible to, sorry, I'm distracted because my bunny just came up here. Yeah, I really try to go and shop local whenever it is possible, being safe, of course. But yeah, if you don't have an art store, that's fine. You can get everything off of Amazon. It's all available. It's all very cheap. I checked. But if you can go to your local art store, I think that's a really cool idea. Plus, you get to actually see the color of the yarn, which is very helpful, believe me. So that being said, yes, you need some monk cloth. And you also need something that you can put the monk cloth on. You can make a frame yourself with scraps of wood. That's what I did here because I just had random scraps of wood laying around. The frame doesn't need to be perfect. We're gonna take it out later. Or if you don't have random scraps of wood laying around, which wouldn't make sense, you can just go and buy or use an old painting canvas and cut the actual canvas so that you only end up with a wooden frame, and then with a staple gun you can staple your monk cloth on that frame so that you then have like the tension to punch. Okay, so the next step once you have all your supplies is to actually design the rug. I kind of did it backward though because I wasn't exactly sure which color of yarn they would have at the store, so I decided to go there first with kind of 3 rough ideas in mind. I thought I could either do a big monster relief, which would have looked really, really cool. Maybe I could have done a banana peel. I don't know, I think that's funny, you know, a banana peel rug. Or something like a sushi piece. So yeah, I went to the store with those 3 ideas in mind. They didn't have green, they didn't have yellow, but they did have those colors that could definitely work to make like a tuna piece of sushi or something like that. So I got my supplies, ran back home because yes, I went running. It was a 15-kilometer run in the snow. I don't know why I did that. That's not the point, but anyway. Ran back home and then started designing the actual rug. So I used Procreate. If you follow this channel, if you watch my usual videos, you know how much I like Procreate, but you can really use whichever tools you have available. You can use just regular pencil and paper, that would work. You could use Photoshop, Illustrator. Anything that allows you to draw or sketch is going to work well. So the first thing I did in Procreate is to create a canvas that has the same proportions as my monk cloth. So it was roughly 26 inches per 19 inches. So I just created this canvas here. It doesn't matter that much, but it helps kind of see which space you have to work in. And then I went ahead and created a new layer and just rename it sketch and started sketching very loosely what I had in mind. If you're working on paper, you just have to trace a little rectangle and then you can draw in this rectangle. And you can see here, I'm just drawing in the bottom part, but later I'm gonna scale this sushi to the final size. And the one thing that is very important when you are working in punch needle is that you have solid colors. So you don't want gradients, you don't want texture, you just want solid colors. So here you're gonna see I'm going to be working on each color on separate layers so that I can adjust them later. So here I just created a layer, renaming it white, and with a inking brush, just a regular inking brush that has no texture in it again. I'm just going ahead and outlining the white part of my rug. And then I am using color fill to fill it in. And I also changed the background to gray, obviously, just so that we can see the white. So here you're gonna see I'm gonna be creating a new layer for every color, like I was saying, just because it is easier. And if you already have your yarn, this is really helpful. You can also kind of bring it in close to the iPad and try to match the color a little bit, just so you have a better idea of what you are working with. If you're working again on paper or in a different software, the technique is the same. Basically, you just want to map out the main color areas with solid colors. So if you're working on paper, you can use coloring pencil, or you can even just draw the sketch and then kind of point with arrows and write the name of the color. That would totally work. But again, all you have to keep in mind is you just want solid colors, no textures, no gradients. I mean, you could probably do a gradient if you were to draw or to punch like every little line individually and have like 10 billion different color yarns, but I mean, that's not very practical. I think we're better sticking with solid color, and it has a really cool finish in the end as well, having the solid blocks of color. It looks kind of cartoonish and just really, really cool. If you are working on iPad, you also can create clipping mask. If you watch my other tutorials, I go in a little bit more depth about that, but basically if you create a clipping mask on one layer, everything that you draw on this layer is going to stay between or inside the shape of the layer below it, basically. So here all the pale red or light red lines that I'm drawing, they were applied as a clipping mask on the dark red, which means I didn't have to worry about like erasing or staying within the line, which is again really helpful. But if the software that you're using don't have clipping mask, it really doesn't matter. You're just gonna have to be a little bit more careful with what you're drawing. But yeah, basically I'm just doing the same thing with seaweed and just tweaking everything. You don't have to be super detailed here, but you do want to have a really good idea of your finished product, because if it doesn't look good in your sketch or like your plan, it's definitely not gonna look better in the end. So make sure that your plan is really nice and you're happy with it. So once you have your design, the next step is actually to put it on your monk cloth so you know kind of where you're going to be punching. There are multiple ways to do that. You can just freehand it, you know, it's a fairly simple way to do it. And you can use pretty much any coloring pencil or something. As long as you see it on a monk cloth, you're fine. So you can just freehand it if you're feeling confident or if it's a simple design. You could also use a projector and project your image on the monk cloth and then just trace it. That's the way to do it. Or you could do what I did, which is, I think, a very good in between. You just trace kind of a grid, like a bunch of squares, on your monk cloth, and then you trace the same squares on your design. And you can then just kind of use the squares as guides as to where to draw your lines. Another thing that is really important to keep in mind, when you're using punch needle, you have two sides to your canvas, obviously. The side on which you're punching, you're gonna get really tight, almost knots looking things. That's a look. On the other side, you're gonna get little loops. In some cases, you want to use the side that you're punching as your final side. In our case, we're gonna be using the other side because we want the loops. So you probably see me coming right now, but for rugs, whatever you're drawing, your design, you need to make sure that you flip it, like you mirror it. Hard word to say, mirror it. So that when you actually have it sketched, when you flip it, it's going to be in the right direction.
And guys, if you've made it this far in the video, please go ahead and comment the word sushi below. I know it sounds crazy, but it really helps me to pace my videos better and just create better videos overall for you guys. And it's also really cool because you guys know me, but I don't know you. So whenever you comment something, I get to see your name and sometimes even your picture, which is just so much fun. So go ahead and comment the word sushi and we'll keep going.
Okay, so now we have our design on the monk cloth, which means we're ready to start punching. So the way to thread the needle is really super simple. Basically, you're going to use a tool that probably comes with it, otherwise you can make one yourself. And you put it through your needle starting from the metal end here. You just go ahead and thread it in until it comes out at the other side. There might be a snag, at least there is one in mine, and it's kind of hard to make it go, but there we go. And once it comes out at the other end, you just open up the two little metallic strands and put your yarn in between. So something like this. And once you have that, you can just go ahead and thread your yarn by pulling on the other end. Super easy. So now you have your yarn that kind of goes through the handle and the metallic part. You can then take your threader out. And the last thing you need to do to thread your yarn is to pull it through the little hole you have in the metallic part of your needle. But yeah, the punching itself is super easy. You're just going to make sure that the big opening is always facing in the direction of where you're going. So in my case, I'm going to be starting with the outline. There's no rule with exactly which color you need to start with. Some people do recommend starting with outlines if you have, like black outlines, kind of cartoonish type of stuff, just to make sure that there's actually enough room for them and you don't end up being like having them squeezed between the big blocks of color. And all you do is you punch through your fabric until like the wooden handle part or plastic handle part touches the actual fabric. And for the first punch, you're going to also go and try to grab your little extra piece of yarn and move it to the other side. And then what you do is you just pull your needle out right until you're able to move the point up. You don't want to take it up more than that. Really, as soon as you're able to move it around to the next point, that's it. If you pull it out more, you're gonna pull out the loop on the other side. It's just gonna keep coming off of your fabric, which is obviously not what we want. So you just move a little bit forward and then punch again. Take out just enough so you can move forward, punch again. And you just keep going like that. So I'm gonna be doing my black outline and I'm gonna get back to you once I'm done. I'm gonna show you what it looks like on the other side and kind of how to finish a stitch. Okay, so I went around and I did, as you can see, kind of the outline for the tuna part of the sushi. It looks a little bit messy on this side, but it doesn't really matter because we're doing it for the rug part, which was the other side. And I went and did it kind of 3 times to make sure it was like a nice thickness and I could actually really see my outlines well. And yeah, if I turn it around, you can see we have kind of the loops that feel a bit more rug, like a rug feeling. Yeah, I just wanted to show you what it looks like on the other side. I also want to show you how to finish, like when you're done, you want to change color or go somewhere else, which is kind of what I'm about to do now. You just punch, and then with scissors, you literally just go ahead and cut the yarn, and then you can come in, take your needle out, and this little leftover yarn that I just cut, which is right here, it's going to blend in with the rest of the rug later. Okay guys, I figured out something that I think is really important to share. It's a mistake that I made and I'm gonna fix it, but I just wanted to show it to you before fixing it. So I'm working on the seaweed part here, and you can see the top is really dense and nice. It's actually like rug feeling. And the bottom is super sparse and whole, like full of holes, kind of like the actual outline. It just doesn't look that good. And what I figured out is the monk cloth was not, like there was not enough tension. And when I was punching, it was kind of just not going well, basically. So what I did is I just added more like staples. I think usually you're supposed to actually use take your monk cloth and kind of fold it over and then tack it on top or on the other side. And that way it is like there's more tension. So I'm gonna go back and just kind of fix this part, adding more in it so that it's all like really nice and dense. And I'm probably gonna go back and add a little bit more in the outline as well. But yeah, I just want to touch base with you before fixing it, because I think that's very important to know. It makes a big difference. Okay, so it's been a week and I just finished the punching part of the rug. I still have all the finishing to do and I'm gonna show you all about that. But yeah, I just finished it and it took quite a while. I mean, I worked on it probably an hour every day for most of the week whenever I had time in between filming tutorials or coloring a children's book. And then last night, I knew I wanted to film today. So last night I went ahead and worked until midnight to try and get it done. But it is all done, which is super exciting. So this is what it looks like right now. Well, this is the back. And since we're going to, well, since this is a rug and this is going to be on the floor anyway, like this side, I didn't care about making it pretty. All I cared about was making sure that there was no holes in this side, which is the good side. And we still have some finishing to do here, obviously. But a few things that I kind of learned while doing it, and this is definitely more of a practice rug in the sense that I was learning as I was doing it, and I definitely made mistakes. But I know I'm gonna make more rugs in the future, at least one more, because that was a whole lot of fun and I feel like the result is super cool. If you guys have any ideas of design, or if you want to challenge me to design a specific rug, please comment below, because I'm always up for a design challenge. But yeah, I'm gonna share with you a few things that I learned making this one and that I think are gonna make the next one easier. So there are still a few things, or there are really a few things that I told you, like making sure there's a lot of tension, which I clearly don't have here, as you can see in your monk cloth. But there are a few things in regards to this little friend here that you probably want to know so that you don't injure your wrist, which I know sounds crazy. Crafting is dangerous, guys. You need to do it properly. It's much easier to go, if you're right-handed at least, from right to left when you're doing your rows, as opposed to left to right. You can see here my wrist is all kind of weirdly angled. And when you're doing large pieces, if your wrist is in a weird position, you're gonna injure it, and you don't want that. So what I learned was, whenever I finished a row, instead of going in and doing an awkward row in the wrong direction, literally, I know it sounds crazy, especially if you have a small piece, that's definitely something you want to do, but just turning the actual rug around and then doing the row in the right direction for your wrist. So there are actually a few techniques that you can use to finish your rug. But first you need to take this like out of the frame. So I tried off camera before to actually get the staples out, and I don't have the right tools. So for now, I'm just going to use scissors and just get it out by kind of cutting around these staples like this. I'm gonna make sure that I still have like as much monk cloth as possible around the rug. Try to just cut pretty much around the staples. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll be back. Okay, so my rabbit is running around, you probably hear him. But yeah, at this point you can either use glue and just glue this and not add a backing. I'm going to add a backing again, like I was saying, because I just want to make sure that I'm not taking any chances of losing this hard work. And yeah, you can use pretty much any fabric, I think. I just cut open recently an old pillow because I needed the filling to fill something else. But anyway, which left me with this kind of gross fabric that I wouldn't use for anything else. But it's gonna be perfect for the backing. So I think glue, you just need regular like white glue. And I'm going to be using a really old, gross paintbrush that I wouldn't paint with because it's an absolute mess, but for glue, it's gonna be perfectly fine. So let's see what happens. Okay, so this was harder than I thought. For some reason, it's like you're adding the glue and it almost feels like the yarn is gonna come out. So I'm not gonna push it more than that. I'm gonna try to see if the backing sticks already, and if it doesn't, I'll figure it out. So it seems to want to stick. I think in theory I should let it dry for 24 hours, but I'm not gonna do that. So it's been, I would say, almost 3 hours now, and the backing is fully stuck on the actual rug part, which is exciting. Before I move on to finishing the edges, one of my bunnies here, you can probably see him. Yeah, before I move on to finishing the edges, I'm gonna do this really fun, exciting part of actually just cutting the extra pieces so that they kind of blend in with the rest of the rug. So once you have your rug all nice and clean, from what I can understand, you're going to want to cut around it, leaving an inch, like a gap of 1 inch. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay, so once you've cut roughly here, what we're going to do is we're actually going to add some little slits halfway. So we're gonna cut the top ½ inch basically. Whenever there's whenever there's a curve, and what we're gonna do then is we're going to fold it. So if you have a straight edge, you don't really need to cut slits, but since mine, there are a few curves, I'm going to go ahead and cut slits, which is going to allow me to fold without a lot of bunching, basically. So you can see it's not all the way through, but it allows to fold a little bit better. So at this point, you could just turn it around and go ahead and with a hot glue gun, glue here and just press down and kind of do your edge that way. That could work. Or what I'm gonna try to do is actually, like I was saying, finishing it with a few stitching points. Well, quite a lot of stitching points. It took 3 hours, literally, to the border, the edge. But I am done, and my fingers are in so much pain. But I'm really glad I went with this method because I feel like the edges look so professional now. Isn't that cool? Isn't that just like so fun? I can't believe I made that myself. Like, it's definitely not perfect, but we did it. I'm so excited, and like I was saying earlier, I definitely want to do at least one more. It might not be in a video, it might just be something that I would post on Instagram, but I definitely want to try to do one more because this was kind of a practice and learning process. And if you have any idea or if you want to challenge me in making a different type of rug for my second one, please comment below. And if you like this video, I know it's a bit different, well, quite a lot different from what I usually do, but it was a lot of fun for me to get some variety in. So if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up because it really does help the channel. And while you're here, don't forget to subscribe because I put out new videos every single week. I'll see you soon.